Okay, so we were talking about your film being banned at the Durban Film Festival.
Yeah.
2 days before it's going to be screened officially, you get a notice.
I didn't get the notice. Actually, no, I'm talking nonsense. The notice came a day before. I was sitting in my hotel room with my wife and the lead actor, Tusi Machana, and it was about 6 in the evening, and we're screening the very next day. And I got a call from Peter Mashen, who's the festival director at Durban. Lovely man. And he gave me a call and he said the film had been refused classification. Now, I wasn't, that made me numb. Even now when I try to articulate it, I'm like, okay, where did that come from? And so I was like, on what grounds? You know? And he said, it was refused classification because the Film and Publication Board, my government, deemed it to be child pornography.
Why? In their opinion versus your take and your vision, what's their issue? What's the real problem? The essence of their politically correct stance?
Well, it's very difficult to answer that question because you're asking me to rationalize the irrational, you know?
They had to give you a reason.
Well, that was their reason, is that they termed it to be child pornography. And the reason why they termed it to be child pornography, well, firstly, they didn't watch the whole film. They watched only 28 minutes of a 109-minute film.
How many?
28 minutes of a 109-minute film. And basically, when they came to this absurd decision, it's after a scene where our protagonist meets a lovely, beautiful woman in a club, not a club, sorry, the equivalent of a tavern, a township tavern, and he ends up taking her home with him. And the very next scene after that, they make love, but in a tasteful manner, you know, almost as if I was adhering to the conventions of, say, 1950s Hollywood. Very, very, very tasteful manner, in my opinion. The very next scene, you see him in his classroom, because he's a new teacher to this town, and he's meeting his new students in the class, and lo and behold, the beautiful woman that he met on the weekend is one of his students. And that's when they stopped the film. They were like, whoa.
Well, I'm sorry, have they ever heard of Lolita?
Clearly not. But that's where they stopped the film. I mean, Lolita is one of my references. But they stopped the film and they said...
I did not know this, by the way. I just threw that out of a hat.
Oh.
I know.
You're pretty sharp for someone who was partying all night.
That's good. I have the pictures to prove it.
So yeah, they stopped it and said, okay, if she's in his class, he's a grade 9 teacher, she must be 16, which is correct in terms of the character I was depicting, right?
Sting wrote about it.
And they looked at it and said, well, in our definition of what child pornography is, this constitutes child pornography.
Okay.
Most absurd thing I've ever heard. And they didn't watch any more. They said...
That's it. That's the line you crossed.
Essentially, where the history of this absurd law, because it is in place as a law. They didn't pull it out of a rabbit. What happened was that there was an Argentinian film that was supposed to play at a gay and lesbian film festival in South Africa a few years ago. The film was called XXY. And when the film came out, they constituted it to be child pornography because you have a minor in the film who has intercourse with older men, and they deemed it to be child pornography. The case went all the way to the Constitutional Court, and basically they were slapped by the court. The court said, this is ridiculous, you need to take into account context, you know. Was this made in a way that was supposed to gratify the viewer? Let's look at what the definitions of what pornography is, never mind child pornography. And it being sour grapes, these guys went off and they amended the law. That slipped everybody because, hey, we don't read the terms and conditions. As human beings, we tend not to read terms and conditions until they affect us, you know. And
you've signed.
Exactly. And in 2009, they amended the law and I'm the first one that it affected. And what this law says is that any depiction or portrayal, well, that's now the clincher, or portrayal of such a relationship for them constitutes child pornography. Now, the actress who plays this 16-year-old is a beautiful and very talented actress by the name of Petronella Chuma, and she's 24 years old and she's a mother, you know. And but for them, because it's a portrayal, that constitutes child pornography. Now, that's absurd on many levels.
It's a fallacious argument.
You know what I mean?
I mean, they study, that, and that's, we can go back to Socrates and have the same argument. I mean, it's just old, and it's a way to protect. But, that being said, you've got past this hurdle, and it's a big hurdle. What's going on with the positive future of your film that's going to obviously make waves?
Yes, ma'am. Look, yeah, there's things happen for a reason, I suppose, and literally a couple of days after this happened, we got a call from some lawyers, Greg Palmer from Webber and Wenzel, who had basically defended the Argentinian film a couple of years before, and he said, "Hey man, pro bono, let's go." And over a period of a week, he basically contested this absurd decision, and the Film and Publication Board's own appeals committee, independent appeals committee, immediately threw the case out. They were like, "What the hell is this?"
Who threw the case out?
An independent appeals committee
based out of South Africa.
Yeah.
So the appeal was accepted.
Yeah. I mean, they saw it. They watched the whole film.
And
said, you have to take
so what
context
happened?
into account.
Did you get into this festival finally or not?
I was already in the festival.
And did
We
it
had
play?
already been selected. Oh, you mean in Durban? No, we couldn't, because obviously it took a
Too
week
late. Oh,
for
too
this
late.
whole thing happened, so we weren't in competition. We were originally, but we ended up not being in competition. And the case was completely thrown out. We were exonerated. But where the disappointing thing was, is that the powers that be at the Film and Publication Board, they still afterwards were making statements, still calling it child pornography, still saying that pending the report to come out from the appeals people, they will still continue with their case of deeming this to be child pornography. And that is why in the next couple of days we're serving them, man. We're going to sue, because it's a defamation of character. I mean, for any filmmaker to be associated with pornography, never mind even child pornography, it's a death knell, in terms of your career, because it's such an easy thing to do, ain't it?
It's also an easy thing to throw out. This being said, many positive come out of crisis.
Sorry, yeah, that was your question.
So it's giving you valuable, if we're going to talk about now, okay, this is the film industry, this is a movie you're promoting, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yes, ma'am. My life hasn't been the same since this thing happened. Everything has changed. We've been in overdrive, so to speak. And even coming to a festival this size, a small film can totally drown under the weight of all of the films that are here. But we've come here as the film that has been unbanned from South Africa. The first...
Unbanned.
Yeah. And that has given us some kind of leverage, obviously. And look, I mean, I didn't set out to make a film that would be banned.
No, of course not.
But things have definitely
happened for a reason. And what is so basically this whole ban thing happened in the timeline. Now we are in September. When did that happen?
The banning happened, funny enough, on Nelson Mandela's birthday. I thought that was quite ironic. Yeah, so that was the 18th of August.
Really, just now?
Yeah.
Literally.
But
so
that's
this
what I'm
is
saying. This has been a whirlwind for me.
Okay, fine. This is good. This is good, baby.
I've even had 5 minutes to breathe.
Breathe, but this is super duper. This is like you can't. Anyway. We are reporting for filmfestivals.com. I think this is amazing for your film. I mean, look, the film speaks for itself. Ultimately, after all that dressing and all the things that happen, it's about the story.
Yeah. That's my whole point. Especially as soon as you see the film, you'll be like, what the hell are these people talking about?
What is next for you as a director or producer?
Well, I've got a whole slate of, to be honest with you, of about 7 films that we have in development. Well, one of the projects that is very close to my heart is a project called First Man. It's a road movie, but it takes place 50,000 years ago in the Karoo Desert, Kalahari Desert. Sorry, it's about a group of women, Khoisan women, who are on a journey to find their missing husbands. The village men, all the men from the village have disappeared, and the last they were seen, they were on their way to discover there's a light, a glowing orb in the horizon, and they went in that direction, and then they disappeared. So it's about these women, these mothers, who are searching for their husbands.
And is this
That's my passion project.
is this a in your mind story, or is this something like coming from something that you've read once? Where is the story coming from?
I'd love to know. It comes from my heart.
So you created, you gave birth to the story.
Yes, ma'am. Maybe I smoke too much weed. I don't know. But the thing about it, there's two things that would have gravitated me towards the story. Passion subject matter for me is the genesis of humanity, where we come from, where we are, and where we're going. And I'm a big advocate of the ancient astronaut theory. So
Chariots of the Gods.
yeah, now you're talking. So it's really
Kurt Vonnegut.
yeah. I can't even pronounce the name.
Yeah.
Also, well, my favorite is Michael Tarian. But my point is, yeah, it's really looking at our past and questioning what we seem to understand to be where we come from. And in the guise of this story is really it's a passion of mine. I really am passionate about where we come from.
Is this a development, or I mean, you're so into this film right now, but I guess the whole thing as a producer now, back to the producer question, is that you need to pace the project so that project to project, I mean, ultimately you're self-employed, right?
Yes, and I'll remain so. Yeah, man, as far as I'm concerned, you're as good as your next project.
Is the script written?
It's busy being written.
Super. And when do you hope to, like, okay, let's roll with this one?
Well, we will have a script in place by March next year. It'll take a couple of months, quite a few months to kind of get the business elements in place. We're hoping to do a co-production with Iceland. We're hoping to even approach the Canadian Film Centre. So it'll be an international co-production. And then to tie up that kind of business, as you well know, it takes a little bit of time. But
big time.
For me, 2014 is really the gathering year. So I intend to start shooting it beginning of 2015.
Question one more.
If we're all still here.
Yeah. Get those cans of sardines. What? And other things. What was the, if you don't mind, what was the total, like, official budget
Of
this film?
6 million South African rands. So I'm trying to see what is that in Canadian dollars.
It's okay. We can, well.
Okay.